This is our Unit 3 test remediation. I'm going to go over the most missed questions. If you earned less than a 70% on the multiple choice portion, so you would need to subtract your 16 points of CR from the total to determine that. Please make sure that you are watching the recording prior to your retake in the course. And then if you're just not satisfied with a score that is a 78% or better, just because I was kind of calculating the points, you're welcome to remediate on individual questions with me by sending an email request. And then also keep in mind that there is feedback on your CR. So following that feedback, if you would like to request to revise, you can send me an email for that. So going over our most missed questions, question 3 and 4 from the open window. And for some of these questions, you really needed to understand what was happening in the passage itself. Just a quick recap. We had a young lady who welcomed a visitor called Frampton, or Mr. Nuttall, as he's referred to. And he is visiting to try and kind of be social, it seems, like with the people in the area. So it seems like there's some kind of maybe illness that he's experienced, whether it is just anxiety or nerves, but he is trying to meet new people. And so he visits, and he's supposed to be talking to this young lady's aunt. However, the aunt is upstairs getting ready or something, and so the niece ends up telling him a story, and the story is actually a lie. So that is the trick that is played. If you did not, follow along and understand that she was lying about the story, you maybe had some trouble answering some of the questions. So our first most missed question says, which line from the open window foreshadows the trick that the niece will play? So we're looking at foreshadowing. And our options are A, her great tragedy happened just 3 years ago, said the child. That would be since your sister's time. And when we're looking at foreshadowing, it is giving us information that is helping us to understand something later on. So in this case, this would be more like a flashback, talking about something that happened 3 years ago. B, then you know practically nothing about my aunt, pursued the self-possessed young lady. And by her asking that question, go ahead and eliminate A. By her asking that question to the visitor, if the reader realizes she does play a trick on him, this is foreshadowing, because him not knowing enough about her aunt or hearing any stories about her aunt from his sister allows us to see that she's able to play that trick. So the correct answer is B. Let's just double check our other options. C, do you know, sometimes on still quiet evenings like this, I almost get a creepy feeling that they will all walk in through that window. This one is just kind of giving the situation, not foreshadowing the reality. It does foreshadow if you didn't realize it was a trick, perhaps, because in the end they do walk through the window, but they are not ghosts. And then my aunt will be down presently, Mr. Nuttall, said a very self-possessed young lady of 15. In the meantime, you must try and put up with me. And so no foreshadowing there, again, just explaining the situation. I know she does use the term put up with me, which maybe is a little bit of a hint that you can infer she's going to play the trick, but not quite an indicator of foreshadowing. 4, read these sentences from the open window, and then which phrase from these sentences contributes most to the sense of surprise. So for this one, we're looking at surprise. The child was staring out through the open window with a dazed horror in her eyes. In a chill shock of nameless fear, Frampton swung around in his seat and looked in the same direction. So A, looked in the same direction. Definitely, to me, does not indicate surprise, so I would eliminate that. B, staring out from the open window. Still kind of flat. I mean, just staring. But dazed horror in her eyes definitely seems to be a surprise because of the word choice. But let me just check. D, swung around in his seat. I mean, you might do that to try and figure out what's going on, but not necessarily because you're surprised. So the dazed horror in her eyes gives away a sentence I'd say that contributes most to the sense of surprise. Okay. Then our next most missed question was 8, which was a part, oh, exit my drawing here, it was a part A, part B, and this is from the Cask of Amontillado. And so for this Edgar Allan Poe piece, it was an excerpt from it. So it wasn't the entirety, but you had some background to help you understand what was going on. And that background, let me just pull that passage up. That background right here at the top is in italics. So it's also a structural thing that this information right here is just giving you some background as we get into the actual text. It is not any kind of foreshadowing or flashback because it is not part of the actual piece. So some people misunderstood that, you know, organization of this one. This background is letting us know that in this story, the narrator, Montresor, right here, believes Fortunato has spoken ill of him. Montresor has plotted revenge and lured Fortunato into his cellar with the promise of a taste of a very special type of wine called Amontillado. Fortunato is having a coughing fit at the beginning of this excerpt, and Montresor pretends to be worried about him, but he really wants revenge. So there's nothing hidden here. We understand his motive the entire time as he is trying to get revenge on Fortunato. Okay, so our question, read the sentences from the Cask of Amontillado. Which literary technique is used in these sentences? So we have the option of pacing, humor, flashback, foreshadowing. Then I heard the furious vibrations of the chain. The noise lasted for several minutes, during which, that I might hearken to it with the more satisfaction, I ceased my labors and sat down upon the bones. So I'm looking at my options, definitely not seeing any humor in this. It's not flashing back to something previously. And as far as foreshadowing goes, if I'm looking through, the noise lasted for, I already know what he is doing. I'm not getting any insight into something that's going to come up. But I do see some words that indicate pacing, like amount of time, the lasting for several minutes. You know, I ceased my labors and sat down, took a break. So pacing is used in these sentences to kind of slow things down. Now, why would the author use this technique in this situation? Understanding that what he is doing is burying this man alive in the wine cellar by basically building up a wall of brick. And so as he is building that wall and he decides to take a break, he can't see anymore, but he hears that when he has chained him up, he hears the vibrations of the chain, and which I might hearken to it with more satisfaction. That word kind of stands out to me. So it's like he wants to sit and listen because he's being satisfied by that. Does this create amusement? Amusement as far as a technique, not really a technique per se, but I could see why some people maybe would have selected that. To build tension, there's really not any tension here because we already know the situation. I'm going to eliminate that for sure. To provide information, no, we already know what's going on. But to build mystery or create amusement. And like I said, amusement's not really a technique per se, but the element of mystery, tension, suspense, that would all be considered a technique for use for pacing. So again, if I'm rereading this, I'm modeling talking through, like process of elimination so that you guys can see this. So again, then I heard the furious vibrations of the chain. The noise lasted for several minutes, during which that I might hearken to it with the more satisfaction. So decides to take a break to actually listen closer to these vibrations, almost like he's getting a sense of satisfaction from knowing that this is taking him some time to pass away. Kind of sick, right? But that is Edgar Allan Poe. So the element of mystery as to like when is it going to happen or what is going to happen is actually revealed right there. Like we don't know how long we're going to last. And if we come back to what the actual technique was, the pacing, why does he slow things down? To make it more mysterious. Not trying to amuse the reader, he's trying to build the mystery. Like, is he going to maybe call out loud enough for somebody to hear? Is the chain gonna break? You know, because he can't even tell what he's doing. So there's a little bit of mystery with that technique of pacing. And then our last most missed question was question 14, and that was a part A, part B regarding the most dangerous game. So interaction between Rainsford and General Zaroff, what does that reveal about his attitude toward General Zaroff? And I do have the excerpt. And then part B, how does Rainsford's attitude advance the plot in the passage? So if we take a look, this is the excerpt we needed to look at. And this is where Zaroff is introducing Rainsford to his like training camp. Not the training camp, the shipwreck, why it's called Ship Trap Island. And he says, hey, look out the window, check it out. So basically what I do is I set things up so that the ships will wreck and that I can gather the men so that I can have them for, to stock my island. It's basically giving him information about stocking the island here. And he says, I let them come in. I make sure they get plenty of good food and exercise. They get into splendid condition, and you'll see for yourself. We'll visit the training school. It's in the cellar. I have about a dozen pupils down there. Like he's giving him the details about this. They came from the Spanish bark St. Lucar. And he is planning to hunt these people that he has stocked the island with. Continuing on, so this was the bottom of that last slide. He raised his hand, and Ivan, who served as a waiter, brought thick Turkish coffee. And here we have, it's a game, you see, pursued the general blandly. I suggest to one of them that we go hunting. I give him a supply of food, excellent hunting knife. I give him a 3-hour start. I'm to follow, armed only with a pistol of the smallest caliber. If my quarry eludes me for 3 whole days, he wins. If I find him, he loses. What if he refuses to be hunted, Rainsford says. Oh, I give him the option, but of course he then ends up with Ivan. So a lot of people decide, invariably, they choose the hunt. And if they win, he says, to date, I have not lost. So this conversation, what is this revealing about Rainsford's attitude? A, he's afraid of Zaroff's lack of self-control. He's not necessarily showing fear in that conversation. We could tell Rainsford's fairly calm in nature. So I'd eliminate that. He believes Zaroff's behavior is inhumane, perhaps. C, he's in awe of Zaroff's power. Doesn't really seem to be surprised with this. He just seems disturbed. He questions Zaroff's sanity, and the key word between these two is really about humanity. So not sure if he's questioning the sanity, but if you go back in to find evidence, we're going to see that he believes Zaroff's behavior is inhumane, and you shoot men and you call yourself civilized, that kind of thing. How does this advance the plot of the passage? Is it he knows Zaroff's unpredictable? No, we know he's very predictable. B, he thinks that Zaroff likes to play games. That doesn't necessarily advance the plot of the passage, just knowing that he likes to play games. C, he realizes being the hunted offers a chance for survival, because he asks those questions at the end. What if he refuses to hunt? What if he wins the game? So C is correct. He realizes that offers a chance, and that's what he ends up doing, taking that chance. D, we could eliminate, he understands that he is expected to go hunting. All right, and that is a wrap for our Unit 3 test review. If you have any further questions, if there's ones that you do not understand that I didn't go over, please make sure you reach out, and I'll help you with that.